We are coming to you live from our Auckland Park studios. This is Prime News on SABC 3, and here's what's dominating in your leads at this hour. First up, bodies of Iranian sailors were taken to Karapicha Hospital in Calais today after a submarine attack on the Iranian warship, the Iris Stena. Tributes are pouring in from former comrades, friends and colleagues after the passing of the former co-president Musiwa Lekota this morning. And the Madlanga Commission has heard that in some instances criminal syndicates have infiltrated or exerted influence within law enforcement structures. We bring to you the world in focus right here on Prime News on SABC 3. A very good evening to you and welcome to your Compass to Current Events. My name is Beki Butumomolete, your host for this evening. I invite you to stick with us as we journey through the latest developments in your headlines today. And with that said, let's get into your leads. We start off with news from international waters. Bodies of Iranian sailors were taken to Karapicha Hospital in Calais today after a submarine attack on the Iranian warship, the Iris Stena. According to the U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, a U.S. submarine sank an Iranian warship off the southern coast of Sri Lanka, dramatically widening Washington's pursuit of the Iranian Navy. Sri Lanka's Deputy Foreign Minister said that at least 80 people were killed in the attack on the frigate Iris Stena, which was heading back to Iran from an eastern Indian port. A video purporting to show the sinking of an Iranian warship was released by the United States Department of Defense earlier today. The exact date of when the video was filmed and type of warship could not be verified. Meanwhile, analysts warn that sustained increases in Brent crude prices could push up inflation at a time when major central banks were preparing to cut interest rates. Oil prices have jumped again, with Brent crude rising to nearly $84 a barrel, its highest level since July 2024. Fighting between Iran, Israel and the U.S. has entered a fifth day, raising concerns that the conflict could threaten shipments through the Strait of Hormuz.
South Africa imports millions of barrels of oil from the Middle East. The country also sources finished products like petrol, diesel and jet fuel from the region. But over the years, South Africa has diversified its sources, with Nigeria now among its top supplier of crude oil. While the security of supply is not under any threat, rising tensions in the Middle East have created significant uncertainty in global financial markets as investors weigh the risk of supply disruptions. Analysts say emerging market currencies have come under pressure as investors pull money out of riskier markets and shift toward the dollar.
So you'll see emerging markets selling off, defense and energy stocks will rally. And we on our side of the world, we focus largely on commodities, will definitely have some volatility there.
On Tuesday, the local market slumped more than 5.5%, tracking sharp losses in global markets as investors reacted to escalating tensions in the Middle East, but the local bourse has since recovered slightly. Analysts say South Africa should be concerned, as much will depend on how long the conflict lasts and whether any major disruption to oil supplies pushes the global economy toward recession.
The last one, is this good for gold? The answer is, in the short term, yes. Gold typically thrives in uncertainty. So those are sort of the three things that sort of look at. Then the secondary things will be around central banks, the balancing act around inflation, short-term panic typically starts and then we stabilize. Then the focus returns to sort of fundamentals.
SABC News, Johannesburg.
In addition, South African households should brace themselves for massive changes in the cost of living come April. Motorists should expect another fuel price increase next month. The budget speech delivered last week announced the combined 21 cents per litre fuel levy increase and added to this whatever the international oil price adjustment is for the month. Meanwhile, keeping the lights on is also becoming more expensive.
The US-Iran conflict will have a huge ripple effect on South Africa's economy, with consumers expected to bear the brunt of higher fuel prices in the month of April. Apart from the budget announcement of the collective increase of 21 cents per litre for the general fuel levy, the carbon fuel levy and the road accident fund levy, the first fuel price recovery data from the Central Energy Fund following the United States attack on Iran this past weekend shows a move economist Yanni Rousseau says would be inevitable.
On the one hand, of course, we have a much higher oil price and the rand exchange rate against the dollar depreciated, and that those two taken together does not bode well for the fuel prices in South Africa. Both petrol and diesel prices expected to increase in April if this tendency of a higher oil price and the weaker rand continues through the month of March.
One of the biggest and most immediate casualties of the escalation is the price of oil, which surged to $82 a barrel at the start of the week, compared to the average of $69 a barrel in February.
Brent crude oil prices have spiked to just under $85 a barrel today. This is as the Straits of Hormuz, which handle around a fifth of global oil supply, remain closed. There's been some indication that the US will escort ships through, but traders remain skeptical around the success of this model.
The impact of the Iran war on diesel prices is expected to be worse, with the Central Energy Fund data showing an under-recovery of R2.35 per litre. Katlego Lekota, SABC News in Johannesburg.
And on that note, let's quickly look at your latest market snapshot, reflecting the day's trading activity as recorded at 7:30 this evening. Tributes are pouring in from former comrades, friends and colleagues after the passing of the former co-president Musiwa Lekota this morning. We'll bring you the details after the break. Welcome back to Prime News on 3. Tributes are continuing to pour in from former comrades, friends and colleagues after the passing of the former co-president Musiwa Lekota this morning. Lekota had an illustrious political career spanning from the liberation struggle to the top ranks of government in a democratic South Africa. Following the hotly contested 2007 ANC Polokwane conference and the recall of former President Thabo Mbeki in 2008, Lekota went on to form the Congress of the People, a party that was a thorn in the side of the ruling ANC during the 2009 general elections.
A giant of the liberation struggle has fallen. Musiwa Patrick Lekota was in the ranks of the South African Students' Organization, the United Democratic Front and the African National Congress that fought for the country's liberation against a vicious apartheid regime. In a democratic South Africa, Lekota became a premier of the Free State. He also served as chairperson of the NCOP and Minister of Defense, and was a former ANC-NEC member and national chairperson of the ANC under former President Thabo Mbeki. Lekota's political career took a sharp turn after Mbeki's crushing defeat at the hands of former President Jacob Zuma's faction at the 2007 ANC Polokwane conference. A conference where Lekota, as national chairperson, had difficulty chairing the sessions, as Zuma's supporters took exception to his alignment to Mbeki. Lekota, William Adisha and Bazima Mashilowa believed that they couldn't remain in the ANC alongside the dominant Zuma faction and thus left to form the Congress of the People, COPE, ahead of the 2009 general elections, where the party received 30 parliamentary seats. The formation of COPE changed the political landscape. It not only prevented the ANC from getting a 2/3 majority in 2009, but also gained huge electoral support in the Eastern Cape, especially in the then Port Elizabeth.
To the people of South Africa, we say that this leadership is ready to serve and will do so with humility, the decency and dignity you deserve.
However, the bromance and the unity of the so-called Shikota wouldn't last forever, as disagreements between Shilowa, the then deputy president of the party, and Lekota would affect the outcomes of the 2014 triennial elections. Shilowa was subsequently suspended by the dominant faction of Lekota in the party. President Cyril Ramaphosa has also sent his condolences to Lekota's family. He says he had traveled a long way with the late founding president of the Congress of the People's leader.
We met at university and we were both expelled from university for our political activism. And we met again when we were both involved in the ANC, and he became a minister in our government. He was a committed South African. He loved this country, much as we were now serving from different benches, as it were.
Lekota died in the early hours of this morning at a hospital in Midrand, Johannesburg. Over the next few days, government will engage with the family of the late politician on the ways they can assist in the preparations for his final resting place. Samkele Masego, SABC News, Johannesburg.
The Matlanga Commission has heard that in some instances, criminal syndicates have infiltrated or exerted influence within law enforcement structures. This was highlighted by the suspended SAPS component head for organized crime, Major General Richard Shibiri, who emphasized that the said infiltration is not institutional, but rather certain individuals. Shibiri himself is facing allegations of having close links with alleged cartel members, including interfering investigations implicating them and receiving money from Vusimuzi Cat Matlala.
In a first from a Phase 2 implicated person, Major General Richard Shibiri has admitted that, in his professional view, criminal syndicates have to some extent infiltrated law enforcement structures, that is including SAPS, the Johannesburg Metro Police Department, the National Prosecuting Authority, State Security Agency, and related entities. Shibiri further testified that this phenomenon is not new.
The intelligence trend, disciplinary cases, criminal prosecution, investigative finding, with which I have been involved, indicate a recurring pattern of attempts by organized criminal groupings to compromise individuals within South Africa, officials within the law enforcement agency.
Shibiri is one of the many high-ranking SAPS officials who are alleged to have enjoyed close links to alleged cartel members, Katiso Katie Mulefe and Vusimuzi Cat Matlala. In fact, Shibiri is accused of receiving 80,000 rands from Matlala. The former, however, says that it was a loan deposited into his son's account after a September 2024 motor vehicle accident involving his son placed him under unexpected financial pressure.
I confirm that the funds were utilized solely for the vehicle repairs and were not connected to any way to my official duties or any operational matter. The loan has since been repaid in full through my own earnings and proceeds derived from my livestock and personal savings.
Shibiri further denied convening a meeting with investigators, witness A and B, for the purpose of distributing envelopes, i.e. a bribe. The hearings continue. Kani Mapanga, SABC News, Pretoria.
Meanwhile, a former NPA senior prosecutor has told Parliament's ad hoc committee, separately investigating the same allegations, how private investigator Paul O'Sullivan managed to escape serious criminal charges. Advocate Michael Mashucha testified that he found that there were sufficient grounds to charge O'Sullivan with intimidation, fraud and extortion in 2017, but the case was struck off the roll.
Paul O'Sullivan has been a household name for investigating high-profile cases. Up until now, his modus operandi has not been out in the open. According to this witness, O'Sullivan has overreached his power and acted in an unlawful manner at times, obtaining credit and cell phone records of private citizens. Advocate Michael Mashucha cites O'Sullivan's investigation into the affairs of former acting National Police Commissioner Khumutso Phahlane, as well as the criminal case against O'Sullivan. Mashucha says O'Sullivan and his aide Sarah Jane Trent impersonated IPID officials in their investigations against Phahlane.
Then there was this contravention of Section 33(5) of the IPID Act, where they presented themselves and acted like IPID investigators, and a conspiracy to commit this offense, and that relates to the two IPID officers who, despite O'Sullivan and Trent acting and pretending like IPID officers, obtaining statements of witnesses.
And it appeared, according to Mashuga, to be enabled by former IPID boss Robert McBride, whom O'Sullivan had allegedly paid 200,000 rand for legal fees to fight his suspension from IPID. Mashuga says this appeared to be a mutually beneficial relationship between McBride, O'Sullivan, and Trent.
I also refer in 97.8 of several instances where Trent and O'Sullivan accessed credit bureau records of several people, including witnesses against General Patlani. In some of these witnesses, she is requested by Mr. McBride to do that. On one instance, McBride leaks an ID number of Alvin Dupree. Alvin Dupree was Patlani's driver and a witness in their matter.
To top it all, he says O'Sullivan reached an agreement with the police that he must be given 2 days' notice if he faced an arrest for any offense. The ad hoc committee continues. Ulelani Philip, SABC News, Parliament.
Thank you for staying with us. Grieving families gathered at the Hillbrow mortuary to identify the bodies of their loved ones who died in Monday's building collapse in Omonde, south of Johannesburg. Questions continue to mount over building regulation compliance and regulatory oversight at the construction area. 9 people died and 3 others were hospitalized when a concrete slab gave way in a building that was under construction.
Emotions ran high at the Hillbrow mortuary in Johannesburg, where families arrived to identify the bodies of those who died in the Omonde building collapse. Some family members stood in silence, struggling to accept the loss. Among them was the family of 29-year-old Bongani Mahlangu, which wants justice and clear answers about what led to the disaster.
We are hurt and we don't know what we will do. We want justice. The company must clarify what will happen.
I don't know how to explain this situation. Was there no foreman, no owner, no municipality involved? It is clear that the place is dangerous and has water beneath it. If you are going to build a building of that size in that kind of area, I don't know whether they had the proper papers or if the land was legally bought.
The Joburg Public Safety MMC says from what he has seen so far, there may have been poor workmanship. Investigations continue to check whether proper construction inspection were conducted.
In structures like this, warning to the public is that when you start to do a double story, you need to get those drawings to be approved by an engineer, because they will tell you what is the strength of material, the strength of your concrete. That's number one. Number two, they will tell you the size of a rebar. A rebar is that wire which is inside that this concrete.
New Order Investments, the company responsible for the construction of the building, confirmed that concrete slabs collapsed at its construction site in Omonde. Lerato Makula, SABC News in Johannesburg.
It is now time for us to cross over to the weather desk to get a view of the mood and our southern skies. Your forecast is coming up next.
Thank you very much. Time for us to look at those conditions over the country. Now, we still have that steep upper trough that's sitting over the interior of the Northern Cape, still causing all the instability. Obviously, you see most of the central parts of the country, talking 60% chance of showers and thunderstorms showers over the Northern Cape, and also those scattered showers and thunderstorms showers over Gauteng for tonight, stretching into Limpopo, Mpumalanga, and the Northwest. Just isolated over Free State and KwaZulu-Natal. For tomorrow, that upper stiff trough becomes a current flow over those areas, causing now up to 80% chance of showers and thunder showers over the interior of the Northern Cape, stretching into parts of the Northwest Free State and to the interior of the Eastern Cape. Scattered over most of the eastern half of the country, especially over Gauteng, Mpumalanga, and also Limpopo. Some morning fog patches over that interior of the Northwest, stretching into parts of Mpumalanga and KwaZulu-Natal, and also those morning fog patches as you move towards the coast over the Western Cape and Northern Cape, which means that visibility will be reduced over those places in the morning. Overnight temperatures, it is going to be a relatively cool night over most of the country, but looking at our warnings now, we're expecting severe thunderstorms level 2 over that interior of the Northern Cape, and also those severe thunderstorms are expected over Mpumalanga, stretching into parts of Gauteng. With that upper trough becoming a cut-off low, we're expecting up to level 5 warning of severe thunderstorm over that interior of the Northern Cape for tomorrow, stretching into parts of Free State and also parts of the Eastern Cape, becoming a level 2 over that interior of the Northwest Free State and into all the way into that interior of the Eastern Cape. Do remember, this level 5 warning of severe thunderstorm means that significant impact is expected. We are talking heavy downpours which can lead to flooding and also strong damaging winds, lightning, and also some hail over those areas. Overnight temperatures, it is going to be a relatively cool night over most of the country, especially over Bethlehem with a low of 39, over Calvinia and Sunderland. For tomorrow, it is a warm day over Gauteng, Pretoria 26, Musina and Palabra. It's going to be a hot day with a high of 31. Also 31 being your maximum as you move into Upington. The mother city, expecting a warm day tomorrow with a maximum of 26. That's all the weather I have for you. Stay tuned.
And that is how we wrap up this evening, and we thank you for tuning in to Prime News on SABC 3. We are back with you again tomorrow evening, but until then, from myself, Becky, and the team, stay informed and stay engaged. Take care.